Your Humanities Half Hour is brought to you by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.
Hapaday Tantero, welcome to Your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry, and today we're talking language again, and specifically the Chamorro and Carolinian Language Policy Commission under the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs. It's my pleasure to welcome to the studio the Executive Director of CCLPC, Mr. Melvin Faisal. Mel, welcome.
Thank you. Then good morning.
You know, the Language Policy Commission is a kind of not very well known, but actually a pretty important part of the government here in the Marianas. What is the role of the Language Commission?
The role of the Language Commission was that it was first created by Public Law 15-96, which established it as a commission, a division within the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs. And under that particular law, it establishes Section 1245, which provide duties and function of the commission. And first of all, to study antecedents, describe the grammar, and prescribe good usage for the Chamorro and Carolinian language, to prepare a modern and up-to-date Chamorro Carolinian English dictionary, to represent the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Island in meetings and conferences on matters dealing with the Chamorro and Carolinian language, and make recommendation to the Board of Education on standard orthography to be used in public school system, and also to research and on the Chamorro and Carolinian language and the people, and provide such resource to the our public library, Joten Kijo, and also to establish, formulate, and enforce policies for government and private sector regarding Chamorro and Carolinian translation, as well as to certify all Chamorro and Carolinian translators. And further down, it allowed the Commission to promulgate rules and regulations for Chamorro and Carolinian language used on all government or public documents and public places, including public buildings, roads, places, street naming, and private business signs. And also to make recommendation to the legislature on policies governing the usage of Chamorro and Carolinian language in government sector, and to establish and support local initiatives to carry out policies in support of the Chamorro and Carolinian languages and cultures.
Well, I'd like to think I'm a little bit aware of the Language Policy Commission because I used to work at DCCA, but I didn't realize there were that many responsibilities.
Yes.
What takes up most of your time and resources as far as priorities among those many duties that you attend to?
Well, we're the only agency that provide translation services to other agencies on translating rules and regulation or administrative law that will be published on the Commonwealth Registry, as well as other proclamations. And we were supposed to be also working with the court, but we found out that we have to be an interpreter. So recently, and I would like to give thanks to Ms. Sonia Kamatsu, Director of Court, and Honorable Presiding Judge Naraha. We've garnered through Secretary Hunter a training that would make our staffs be able to be interpreting and also to meet the court code of conduct for interpreter. So last year, one of my staff was sent off island through the assistance of the Senami Court to obtain the training of language assistance program, which is needed because of the Title Civil Rights Act of 1965 regarding limited English proficiency. And it mandated that even the Carolinian Chamorro, if they feel that they're more comfortable in speaking in their own language, then the court must have an interpreter. So recently we also went to a training. I sent 2 staff to a training, and they obtained the much needed training. And then about a month ago in January, we had our staff went down to the court and interpret. And it was a Carolinian interpreter that went.
What difference do you feel it made in a case like that for your staff to be there interpreting? What do you feel is the difference than if you weren't there, or if maybe somebody not as well trained was doing the interpretation?
I feel that the staff, through the translating of documents and having the Carolinian dictionary with them, they may have those English terms already kind of like built in their memory, and when they're there to do the interpreting, they know what to say when a client needs that particular communication between party A and party B.
Kind of because they have so much experience
Yes.
translating and interpreting.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, what is the difference between interpretation and translation?
Translation is like you're translating a written text, while interpreting is when you're translating verbal to in a verbal setting.
So obviously it's to your benefit to have staff members who stay with you a while and gain more experience
Yes.
and get more acquainted with both the vernacular and English.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the staff you have there at your office.
Well, my 2 staff, I only have 2 staff who works on translation, and her name is Claudia Larson and Miss Gina Mariham Kamatsu. She handles the Carolinian translator, and the Miss Larson handles the Chamorro translator. And for the last 1.5 years that I've been working with them, I see them that they were from public school system. I believe they were teachers. They were before I came in, and they're doing a very excellent job. I also have Mr. Andrew Agutu, and he still continues to work as media specialist also. She continues to do coverage for other agencies whenever they have events. So it's pretty much a multifunction type of person also.
Do you have any other staff at your office?
Yes, I have also a community specialist 3, Mrs. Rachel Tagawell Billy, and Mrs. Cynthia Cindy Regis, and she's my financial officer.
What are some of the challenges you see either facing the work of your office or facing the language in our community today?
You see, the part here is that we have a lot of programs that we want to also implement, but because of funding issues. And on top of that, the Secretary Hunter and I are working on having the division to obtain its own DUNS number, which is primarily needed thing in order to apply for grant on via ANA. So I'm looking back at in I believe 2004 when you used to work there. I believe you and Mr. Mareham worked on a grant from ANA on proficiency, how to measure the proficiency of our native language that is being used in the community, and maybe that's one of the objective also to look at for. And I've been in communication with Mr. Mareham, and he has been telling me that also to check you because you were a resource at that time.
I think I wouldn't say I've forgotten all my grant writing experience, but I tried to forget it. So as the, if I understand what you said earlier about you recommend orthography or you develop the orthography for the languages, is that correct?
The commission is responsible for the orthography to adopt it and bring it by the board and then bring it over to the legislature for full adoption.
So what is the status right now of orthography for the Chamorro and Carolinian languages?
The Chamorro and Carolinian languages was adopted in 2006. And then later on, there was a minor amendment to the Chamorro orthography, which was adopted, if I'm not mistaken, in 2010. So currently we're using those adopted orthography when we translate documents.
For those that might be interested in improving their language skills or understanding the languages, are those resources available at the library or any place online for people to look at?
Even PSS has those orthography, and also our office has those adopted orthography. And, the law also was specifically said that the commission is responsible to certify translator. And it has been in that law for so long. And when I came on board, that's one of the components that the board and I are looking into. And we want to work with the public school system, since the public school system has established a standard of certifying teachers. So we want to look at the public school system, how they certify basic teacher 1 in Chamorro Carolinian language heritage study and advanced basic teacher 2. How do they do the testing on that in order for that particular individual to become a basic teacher 1 or a basic teacher 2, without really doing it through the, what they call that, praxis.
Part of the praxis, which is very difficult to,
yes.
pass. Well, we're talking today with Melvin Faisal, the Executive Director of the Chamorro Carolinian Language Policy Commission, and we'll be back with more after this break.
Did you know that you can donate up to $5,000 to the Humanities Council through the CNMI Education Tax Credit Program? Donations from individuals and corporations qualify and can be used to offset your local wage and salary tax, BGRT, and earnings tax. Call our office at 235-4785 to see how you can support humanities programs in our community and obtain a tax credit for your donation. Sizuus Maasi, Olomai, and thank you.
Welcome back to Your Humanities Half Hour. Mel, in the paper recently I saw that your office had something to do with this being the year of the indigenous language, which is very appropriate. What was the role of the Chamorro Carolinian Language Policy Commission related to this?
Well, Kathy, it all started in November 14 to the 15 in 2019. We had a regional dialogue between Guam Language Commission and the CNMI Language Commission at PIC. And one of the agency, for your information, there were 91 participants.
Wow.
And Napu room was a little overcrowded at PIC.
That's great, though.
And one of the participating agency that was present made a suggestion, since it's a regional dialogue dealing with our language or indigenous languages, that we looked at February 21st to celebrate this event. Then it was the late Mr. Jose Tilopaulimis and the Vice Chairman, Mr. Donald Mendiola, who prompted that idea and have it be introduced by Senator Sixto Iguazomar as a Senate Resolution 2109 with as the author and Senate President, Honorable Senator Teresita Santos and Honorable Senator Justo Quirigua and Honorable Senator Vinny Sablan and Honorable Senator Borja, as well as our primo from Rota, Honorable Senator Paul Manglonia, were also sponsor. And he passes the Senate, prompting the House to declare February 21 as the International Mother Language Day, as well as for Commonwealth. And then proclamation was prepared, and the reason why it was held on 24 was that there was a conflict of schedule with the Lieutenant Governor. But at least he made it that it will be on the 24th, and I believe every year it will become part of the Chamorro-Carolinian language policy activity also. And we're targeting that by next year, we will target February 21, which has always been the day that the United Nations set it as the Indigenous Language Day.
What is it you hope to achieve by having this day declared in the Commonwealth?
It will allow us to, increase our or improve our delivery of program and services by more support. We want to forge collaboration with Northern Marianas College and private sectors for the revitalization and maintenance of indigenous language through creation of more materials and content and a wider range of services using language, information, and communication technologies. So,
wow. I think we're going to need more than one day.
No, it's not only one day, ma'am. It's something that I'm working toward for next year. And then second, we want to also include access. And access, we are working with the Senamay public school system. And we continue to work with them in preserving indigenous languages and creating access to education, information and knowledge in and about indigenous language for our indigenous children, young people and adults, and also to improve the data collection and sharing of information. We missed out in working with the Department of Commerce on this.
In what way?
To include in this census, if we could also measure proficiency of the Chamorro and Carolinian in the community. But rest assured, miracles always happen, and I believe Commerce will be conducting after the 10-year what they call that, the mid-census, the living standard or health and something that's called like that. So we'll continue to work with Commerce on that.
Another opportunity.
Yes.
Are there any other annual activities or that you guys participate in other than translating the many proclamations?
We also work with activities for the Chamorro-Carolinian language heritage studies, and as well as with the Indigenous Affairs Office and the Women's Affairs Office and the Sinamai Cultural Heritage Week, we work with the Indigenous and Carolinian Affairs Office as a supporter to those.
Who would you say are your closest partners that you work with regularly, either in the government or the private sector?
I would say Carolinian Affairs Office, and as well as the public school system. We work closely together. And we do also work with the Indigenous Affairs Office, but mostly through their programs that or their function that they have. That's where we always participate with. And we have a non-government organization that we work with, the Inenun Amut Nativo and the Chamorro Dictionary Committee, as well as the Carolinian, it's called the Carolinian Orthography and Dictionary Committee under the Carolinian Affairs Office. The reason we're working on that is we need to revisit our Carolinian dictionary. It's more than 20 years old.
Not only are you the executive director for the Language Policy Commission, but I think a lot of people in the community recognize you as a cultural leader in the community, somebody who has a lot of knowledge and helps preserve and share that knowledge. What do you feel in your heart is the value of continuing to know and use our Chamorro and Carolinian languages?
We must attack socio-cultural in a way where it has to start in the house, rearing of the children. And we need to also invite back the faith base, especially the Diocese of Chalancanoa, because at this moment the Carolinian Mass died out because nobody is working on the updating to be consistent with the new new mass procedure that was approved by the U.S. bishops. That's another. Those are two other factors that we have to look into. And I believe that the Chamorro Carolinian Language Policy Commission should also be part of the quality rating improvement system that goes out and check the child care centers. In order for our language not to die, we need to also go out and ensure that the daycare centers are also promoting our native language to whoever is in the daycare. Language is the umbilical cord of arts and culture.
I definitely think it would be an advantage to any daycare to say, like, hey, we're going to speak Chamorro or Carolinian to your kids, because some parents are really looking for that.
Yeah, and we need to start off when a child is young at age,
Yeah.
Most especially in that age where they are in the daycare center, before they go up to the higher level. Expose them, at least half a day, hello, and then play them some sort of Chamorro Carolinian song. And that will definitely have something in the...
Plant a seed.
Yeah, plant a seed in that...
I think, I don't think we can have a show about the commission without... speaking in the language, so Sinyon Sunganiham didijaput isti Language Policy Commission and Rela Remorales me Rufalor.
Right. I believe let's turn it around, because I want to see how proficiency is working in this industry. So maybe you can speak it in Chamorro Carolinian, and I will translate it in English.
Well, we already said it in English, so...
Okay. i komisiyon ma-establish ni izotano Public Law 15-96 da unggan magard bula izonyano Monday destin lai lawan ay loki i komisyon no autorisan na para asuguro na continua mo protehi jan ana lalamona ifenotasya ni natibo como Chamorro jan followers. Allogie 15-96 nge ayorat Palacio Yetal Chamorro Carolinian Language Policy Commission. Egishelap kapsal allogiel ngelaw engalengali lemelem wal ebu Palacio real ebu fite ya lebu alesi metepengi malias Chamorro me followers melal followers Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Island. Khiliso.
Thank you, Mel. For those that would like to contact you or your office?
664-5321.
664-5321. Yes. Any closing thoughts before we go?
When I came on board the CCLPC, me and our staffs, we worked on goals. And one of there were 3 goals that we established. The first goal is to increase our the commission organizational capacity, and the second goal is to improve delivery of programs and services, and the third goal is to increase public awareness. So I believe I'm doing public awareness on the commission, and as well as covering the most historical event that happened over last Monday on February 24th. And with that, we will continue to forge working with the Humanity Council, and I'm always available when there is anything that has to deal with the Chamorro and Carolinian language. And thank you very much.
Our guest today has been Melvin Faisal, the Executive Director of the Chamorro Carolinian Language Policy Commission. And feel free to contact them if you'd like more information, or if you're somebody that can offer some support to them. I'm sure they would appreciate your support, especially maybe if you have some grant writing skills. This has been your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry.
This program was supported by a We the People grant awarded to the Northern Marianas Humanities Council from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities or the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.